This is probably a question you've been asked many times before, but I'm very curious. On those early recordings, what are some of the early bands that really influenced your sound that you kind of grew up listening to?
Wow.
Besides the Beatles.
Well, yeah, the Beatles is always an obvious one.
The Slits.
Perennial favorite. Skinny Puppy, believe it or not.
Plasmatics.
Let's see. I gotta say, in all seriousness, the Replacements.
Yeah.
Actually, anything from Minneapolis at that point, really, we were into, right?
Husker Du.
Like Husker Du and Replacements, we worship. As we also did a band from England a little band called the Smiths, too, were a huge influence.
You can hear that a lot on our first album, actually.
It's totally true.
What's some of the work that you guys did with Big Star? I'm really curious about that project with Alex Chilton.
Well, when we were basically kind of like two hired guns to fill out, what was left of the original Big Star that wanted to be a part of Big Star when Big Star was asked to reform for one show, basically. See, and we ended up with the gig, a long story short, and spent 17 years playing with them. And
yeah, I mean, Big Star had it was always a pretty volatile band, and of course they had the fact that they didn't achieve really anything other than making great records in their original run. They had all these business problems and just a band with great potential that just didn't see that potential until way later.
Right.
The band sort of disintegrated as soon as it started in a way. Chris Bell quit after the first record, and then Andy Hummel quit after the second record, and so it ended up as a two-piece. Chris Bell died in 1978. Andy Hummel, finished his engineering degree and went to go build fighter airplanes. So Alex and Jody, Alex kind of just basically forgot about Big Star from that point on. And when that show happened in 1993, a show that nobody imagined would have happened. Nobody
Where was it?
What was that?
Where was the show?
The show, of all places, it was the brainchild of these two students at the University of Missouri in Columbia, Missouri, and they decided for their spring fling, they had like an arena at the university rented out for a Bryan Adams concert, and in the parking lot they said, well, let's put some other bands on. What could be interesting? And these two kids were like, what about Big Star? And they found Jody, who's not that hard to find, as he was kind of the PR face for Ardent Studios, the recording studio where Big Star made all their albums, and that's how we found Jody, because we wanted to work there too, because of Big Star. And Jody said, well, sure, I'd be happy to, but call Alex, and knowing, quote unquote, that Alex would say no, never in a million years. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll play.
Just luck of the draw, really.
And then they're like, oh,
crap,
this is really going to happen. So where do we get a band?
Yeah, we got to find some people to play with now and make it actually happen. So.
And that's where we came in. Long story short, there's a lot more to it than that.
There was like a short list of people. I mean, Paul Westerberg was on the list, Matthew Sweet, Chris Stamey, potentially Mike Mills. But long story short, we ended up getting the gig.
Cool.
So.
And spent almost 2 decades playing with Alex until Alex passed away this year.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to the Posies, when you guys disbanded in 1998, did you know? Was there a part of you that knew that it was not quite over?
No, we were quite certain it was. We were done. We were out of enthusiasm for the project.
Absolutely.
And sort of things had just kind of reached a dead end in many ways. I have to say that I kind of, well, no, it's not even kind of. I definitely can't imagine making records in 2010 with the lineup that we had in 1998. As great as Joe Skyward and Brian Young are as people and musicians, I can't imagine growing in the same way that we've grown. And now we have, we've been playing with Matt Harris on bass and Darius Wall on drums for almost 10 years, and that seems to me to be the ideal configuration for this band. The vision is a lot more cohesive as far as what we're all into, i.e. Rush. And it just works personality-wise and everything. I mean, our band is odd because we started out as this DIY project that was a duo, and that demo that we made in 1988 became our first album, and it totally took off and caught us totally by surprise. And we hadn't played a live show, we hadn't done anything, and so we were always kind of scrambling to find people to help us and to who shared that vision. And and we always had like kind of solutions that were kind of, they almost worked in a way, but I think, and they, some brilliant work came out of it and some brilliant shows came out of it, but it's nothing like what we've been doing for the past 10 years, which is just way more what a band should be.
Right.
People who share
Yeah.
a vision, but with distinct personalities,
And Ken talks about, not being able to, be as creative with that lineup in 2010. I'd have to include, our 1998 versions of ourselves in that
Also
too.
true.
Right.
We just, it was pretty brutal at the end. I mean, you're talking to a couple of guys that grew up together and then spent way too much time together. And then, of course, you're being creative all the time and you're promoting all the time and just too much togetherness. It was a inevitable recipe for, implosion eventually. And, you look in hindsight, it's just like any long-term relationship, whether it's a band, friendships, romantic relationships. I mean, it's about the peaks and valleys. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. And I don't know, we did spend a couple of years apart, and then we had this this project we had to work on together. It was a box set that we did, which is arguably the final nail in any band's. The greatest hits in the box set, right? Those are the things that are like the last things you do as a band. And for the box set, we had to go through, like, no pun intended, boxes and boxes of photos and old tapes and
Side by side.
pretty much. I mean, we actually got together and did it in
it's a 50-track box set or whatever,
Yeah.
and we had to sit in a mastering studio.
There's no way we could've-
for days.
we
to
couldn't
put it
avoid each
together.
other. We had to kind of confront each other, and I don't know. We actually had a really good time. We laughed a lot and told stupid jokes and thought, hey, there might still be something to this, and just step by step, it all kind of grew back into being something that we actually spent a lot of time doing now.
I would think that you would need that perspective anyway, after all that time, to really step
Absolutely.
away from it. And
It's looking in hindsight. It just seems like it was part of the script now.
Right.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
mean, if we could have said, let's take a break, but it just didn't seem like that,
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
In reality, that's what it
Sometimes you
was.
got to say something is put a finality to something to actually really appreciate it too.
Right.
I think.
I'm sure that contentions
know?
also kind of helped build your creative catalog,
It's
Having
it's
some of
possible.
that, yeah.
It's possible.
Maybe.
Really?
So you guys
Waiter,
are...
check please.
Yeah.
I'm like, we can move on from when you guys were not getting along. You guys are finishing up your tour this month. What are your plans for next year?
Ooh, well,
I hope it happens.
yeah. I hope next year happens.
Yes.
It's
No,
very close. It's very...
we never know.
2011
That
has a nice
calendar
ring
could be
to
like
it.
a year
Yeah.
or so off. So, we'd like to hit some European festivals next summer. That's kind of a must-do, and those offers are starting to happen a little bit.
There's a place I'd really like to go. I've heard we might go that you were talking about.
Oh yeah, we were talking about
Yeah.
we're working on our first South American tour.
Cool.
That should be really great. I've been doing.
It's exciting.
It's been really rough. I had to go down to Peru and Chile to do some research and make
tough.
some contacts. So it's been really like a very stressful research.
Did you bring my machete back with you?
No, I had to
Okay,
use it.
all right. I'll
There's
get
one
another
promoter
one.
we won't be working with since he doesn't have arms anymore.
Sounds like my kind of guy.
Who is it? Just kidding.
But no, yeah, it's there's things. I think the record has life in it. I mean, I've been following. I have my Twitter feed. Searching for the Posies all the time, and I can see when we get played on the radio when radio stations tweet that, and there's some radio stations in Europe that are just flogging this record really hard, and that's great.
You guys have a good market in Europe, it seems like.
Yeah.
And we like
the
Europe
press on this
ourselves,
album has been
too.
amazing, really. I mean,
Especially in
I think we got the
UK.
best reviews we've ever gotten.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Except in the East Bay Express today.
Really?
Yeah, the guy there is like, he's one of these guys that's like a power pop nerd who like loves our kind of Beatles-like stuff from the early days, and he was like, they experiment, but they really shouldn't experiment. That's just not what they should be doing. They should do what they do best. I'm like,
Posies make hamburgers. Now they're making Thai food. Can they just make hamburgers again?
And I was
Yeah.
like, thanks for telling us, what we can and can't do after 20 records, 20
Seriously.
years and 8 records.
Yeah.
I tore him a new one on every social media possible. This guy's probably not going to want to be on the internet for a couple days.
Right. I was going to say, it's probably hard. I mean, at what point do you stop reading the press? Or, it's hard not to keep up on it, but...
Well, you can't please everybody. Shouldn't
Right,
try.
of course.
I mean, but it's okay to get pissed off about it too
Yeah.
sometimes.
I love to flame. It's
Totally.
one of my biggest tension releases.
Now there's a great outlet for it too. It's called the internet.
Nice. You're very much allowed to get pissed.
Yeah.
I think that's it. So
Sweet.
thanks so much for stopping by.
Yeah, we had a great time.
Yeah, it was great.
right.
So I think that's it.